Good people of YouTube, thank you for all the comments on the video, but also there is now a critical mass of comments online regarding Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I wanted to go through and just assess some of these. There are some real disagreements going on in my comments, and there are also just a lot of Real Madrid fans, a lot of Liverpool fans, a lot of neutral fans, a lot of people who've got their own perspective, and I thought it was fascinating to go and take a look through this. And throughout this, I'll explain my perspective, I'll explain some other perspectives that I think are evolving online right now, and I'll also just say sorry to Madrid fans, all right? Some of you are triggered, and some of you rightly so. Some of you are just Madrid fans, and the way you speak proved some of my theories about global Madrid fans the other day. And if you're a Madrid fan, you will not know what we mean, because for some weird reason, it's a blind spot for you. For other fans, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the pompousness of some of it. I don't get it. And maybe it's because we don't come from the same fan base. Maybe it's because we're not the same kind of football fan. It's a bit of a blind spot. And frankly, Madrid and Barca fans, you need to sort it out because it's bad for your PR. I don't know, maybe you'll say the same about Liverpool fans, but some people got quite nasty in the comments, and I cannot wait to find those comments. Anyway, sorry to the people that I upset from a genuine historic point of view. Some people said when I was alluding to the fact that Madrid benefited from being in Madrid and from being favourable to some of the government, I didn't know enough about the history, and I'll hold my hands up. I'm sorry. I know some people, a lot of people in fact, died under the rule of Franco, and I don't want to upset anyone who lost family members or anything like that, because that's certainly not what I was going for. So I'm sorry to those people who got upset in that way. To anyone else, you can eat it. But to the specific people who would be upset about the historical ramifications of people who actually died in a family or whatever, I'm sorry. And we have to be willing to hold our hands up as football fans about that, because ultimately it is just football. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's go back. We'll go back chronologically, because I think the story's evolved to this point. Anyway, the point goes like this, and I'm just going to go through the comments. I'm just going to read them out. The difference between competition in Spain and in England is Madrid face 2 9s 6 times a year, while Liverpool faced 6 8s 24 times a year. What he means by that is 2 teams rated like out of 10. I think he means a 9 out of 10. So he's talking about Madrid, Atletico Madrid, and Barcelona. Whereas he's saying Liverpool would face, say, a Brighton, a Chelsea, a Newcastle. I don't know if Newcastle are an 8. They're more like a 7.5 at the moment. But, you know, an Arsenal, a City. Arsenal and City are not 8s. First of all, Arsenal, maybe 8.5, close to a 9. I think City, a 9. More often than not, obviously not at the moment, but you know, more often than not, they're a 9. Don't be ridiculous to call City an 8. Pretending Madrid have it easy because of the league, despite overall better performance in Europe from Spanish sides, is such a British mental handicap. I'm glad we went there, buddy. I'm glad you called some of us mentally handicapped, though I'm sure that's not what you mean. I'm sure it's because it's your second language. I hope you guys figure it out soon. Again, we're getting back to the kind of Madrid patronizing thing here. And again, it was weird because I actually called it out in my last video, and some of them, in thinking they were responding, confirmed that they patronize us. Also, Madrid are smart with their money. When a Casemiro or Varane get past their use-by date, we sell them to the English. When you say the English, you mean Manchester United. And I think this is where we differ in our approaches, or where we differ in our approach to this. First of all, Madrid and the strongest teams in the league do not represent the cross-section of the whole league in terms of quality, in terms of intensity. I think there is plenty of quality in La Liga, but the intensity of the games, the overall rigor of them, I think he's certainly right. Like, you face 2 9s a year. Facing 6 8s 24 times a year, that's 4 more games. That's 4 more times the amount of games that you're claiming are difficult. Overall, that's where I find the difference in those 2 leagues is. By the time that the English are facing the Spanish, and this may be down to the FA, this may be down to the Premier League, I often think that the English teams look a lot more tired. I think the Spanish teams look a lot fresher. And very often I think those Spanish teams have had a lot more pre-seasons to work it out, frankly. I'm just saying, I think the overall rigours of the Premier League make it harder for the English Premier League teams to win the Champions League or win anything in Europe. And even then, there's a reason that both these leagues have got 4 Champions League participants, 1 Europa League and 1, maybe 2, Europa Conference League participants. Overall, I've just got to say, I think right now it's a harder league to win in the Premier League. I think the coaching, all those kind of things, but overall the fitness and even just the money sloshing around makes it harder. We'll get on to more about the differences between Real Madrid and Liverpool and every other team in the league later. Funny thing about fans is they forget players are people with desires too. We just watch them 2 to 3 times a week and feel we have some right over them. This was another weird thing, but I'll get into this in a second. Trent will choose what is best for himself and the club will move on. I personally won't be mad at him for leaving. He has won it all with Liverpool. Yes, there's a new manager, but there's other experiences which will also feel great. This whole chat of winning a trophy with Liverpool means more. Newsflash! When you win it, it feels amazing. Speaking obviously from a player's perspective. You're a part of the whole process as a player, unlike fans, where we just see one side of it. First of all, I think the fans who are going to the stadium every week, they certainly have a much more intense feeling. The fans who live in Liverpool will definitely have a more intense feeling than anyone else experiencing this. There are people who have this much more of a lifestyle thing. I just dip in and out of sports. It's much more how a lot of people in the UK treat the NBA or the NFL. But it's also, it's a very different lifestyle. Being an international fan, being someone who doesn't live in proximity to Liverpool, or even in the UK, is a very different experience. So first of all, don't mistake your experience or say the experience that you have for someone else's. Secondly, that's why I think it's caused such a visceral reaction for a lot of Liverpool fans, right? There are a lot of fans who feel that this is a daily ritual for them, a daily experience for them, something where they say, hey, we feel close to the club because we live close to it, because it's something which has done something for our community. Don't underestimate the value of the community built around football. And thirdly, I think a lot of people feel a right to these players because they feel that they've played a part in building them up. Football wasn't the same during the pandemic because the fans were not there. The players didn't have anyone to celebrate with. There's a reason that people venerate the Premier League atmospheres, even though everyone slags off each other's atmospheres. There's a reason they venerate each other's atmospheres, and that's because these are special places to go. We don't just make these atmospheres up. Going to these places, hearing the humour, hearing the nuance is incredibly important to the details of the Premier League. And I'm sure that Trent could go to Spain and experience some of those nuances for himself. There are other nuances in Spain, which I imagine are quite unpleasant, which, let's just say it, there's a lot of racism in Spain. There are a lot of negative experiences. There's racism in England too. And those two things come out in different ways. And we will talk about some of this racism further down in the comments. I know there are some other comments about racism coming. But overall, I think that's kind of my point here. Being in Liverpool, being one of the locals is a different experience. And like I said in my last video, that can go both ways. That can be an experience of, first of all, being incredibly proud and the intensity of that pride and having your family and all those kind of things represented by the community. But also that can go the other way. The fishbowl experience that Trent will probably have, the feeling of familiarity. Familiarity very often breeds contempt, and the feeling that you want to escape some of that, go and experience something else. That's not an experience that people resent from Liverpool, and we will get onto that, more of that later on, right? There are a lot of comments here, guys, so let's just try and break through some of these. Trent goes, nowhere, Laurence, you know this dude. There is this theory, by the way, that Trent is using the Real Madrid experience and the Real Madrid bids and interest to play Liverpool off. I'm not against that. Really, is he playing Liverpool off or is he playing FSG? Because those two things are so close and because FSG own Liverpool, very often he's playing two things at once. He's playing both sides, which I think a lot of people think is very smart. Remember, he didn't sign that 6-year contract. Another interesting point, he signed a 4-year contract knowing that he'd be going into his peak at around this time and knowing that Liverpool possibly, be entering a new Klopp era or just a new era in general, and knowing that that was going to be a critical moment for him and for Liverpool, but also knowing, hey, maybe I can go somewhere else. Maybe I will run my contract down. That is why some other people may be angry. They may feel that they want the club to get value for the talent that they feel that the club has helped develop. Whilst FSG own the club, there are a lot of people who've put a lot of time into Trent, given a lot of space to Trent, given a lot of support to Trent in that time, when things weren't so good. And they feel that they have built up his reputation. They feel that they do, like maybe rightly or wrongly, have some share in the overall experience, and that they, not that they should have some say on therefore where he goes, but that he should acknowledge that to some capacity. And I think community and having that community, and this is where I think a lot of people misunderstand this, especially at clubs like Liverpool, is important. It goes a long way to building your legend and to building your experience. And it speaks to another aspect here. I think some of this is PR. I think some of this is, you know, the public experience rather than the whole experience. Now, I'm going to do this in another video, but I would urge fans not to jump the gun in terms of you will never be welcome back here. You know, we see very often in multiple different experiences, as things cool over time, you remember the good experience you had with those people, you remember the pleasant times they gave you, the exceptional experiences, and you welcome them back with open arms. They become a prodigal son of sorts. They become a different figure within the club's history. And as you move on, as you get other right-backs, as you get other people becoming important to the club, they sit in a wider context that didn't seem as evident when you felt angry that you were going to lose them at some point. It's the same as a breakup. It's the same as any painful, grieving experience. You worry you're going to lose people, and you don't want to lose the best players in the world somewhere else. Anyway, let's move on. Laurence, you don't watch La Liga. I don't watch as much La Liga, but I do watch La Liga. You're incredibly bitter towards Real Madrid. We'll get onto this in just a second. I'll explain it because I want to read the whole comment. Yes. Right, actually, I'm going to stop here. Being bitter towards Madrid, being resentful towards a big institution which you don't feel is necessarily always good for the game or has always acted in the way that they paint themselves is fair enough. I wish this was a wider thing. Yes, I sports hate Real Madrid. I don't like them for what they represent. Do I hate them as people? No. As my apology to Madrid fans at the start of the video showed, there's a human element to this, but there's also an element of rival fans and banter. Don't get it twisted here, right? These are two different things. Especially as a mature adult, I can separate those two emotions and say, yeah, like, Trent, we wish you all the best, but at the same time, do we like Madrid? Do I like what they represent? No. And that's perfectly fine. Like, I can explore those themes without feeling the need to get lost in the thought. This is where we separate. And this was throughout the comments, guys. Yes, Real Madrid is a fan-owned club. You are a brand of the Boston Red Sox. Period. Real Madrid are what you cosplay as. Deal with it. I found this fascinating. I find all of this fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Let's just dive into it, shall we, guys? First of all, Real Madrid is a fan-owned club. Yes, that might be true, but they're run by Perez. Perez, a man who, whilst I think he represents the fans to some extent, has very often represented a lot of what a lot of people didn't find very palatable. Madrid was extremely invested in the European Super League, and now the Super Champions League, as we're going to call it. And that doesn't necessarily represent fan interests. It represents capitalist interests. It represents neoliberal capitalist interests and super capitalist interests and investment interests and Saudi interests and American interests and all the other people who want to expand the profitability of the sport. But if you want to cosplay as a fan-owned club, let's not get it twisted, guys. We're clear that we're not a fan-owned club. No one in the Premier League cosplays as a fan-owned club, right? We cosplay as fans who have investment in a club that has investment. We are very clear about that. The Spirit of Shankly is very clear about that. Plenty of other people are clear about that. You know, no league is clearer as a set of fans than the Premier League about what we really are, right? And that has become crystal clear over the last few years. But do not tell me that having a fan-owned club represents, maybe it represents slightly better, but represents the people better as Real Madrid. If the people want Real Madrid to be what it is, I don't think the people who are invested in Real Madrid have a good idea of what fan-owned feels like and means. I feel that it is a cosplay of sorts that Real Madrid does, and that they use the word fan-owned as a proxy for other values that I don't feel particularly Madrid represent in football, right? If Madrid particularly want the European Super League, why would the fans want that? Because what, they want to feel more supreme than anyone else? Let's not get it twisted, guys. Being fan-owned does not mean that you are better for football if your club is doing things which are not better for football. Real Madrid has a lot of interest in Europe. Real Madrid has a lot of interest in the Middle East. They have a lot of interest globally. This whole thing of the period that I hear throughout here, the deal with it, what that is them trying to say, this is how football is, and you don't get it, we get it because we're Madrid. And this is the big boy attitude that a lot of Real Madrid fans hit most people's comment section with and bully other people with, because they hide behind some of these concepts and ideas that they think allow them to tell other people what football is. I'm not gonna bother with that. I'm not even gonna stand for that. I think that's rubbish, first of all, and I think it's something that an idealist basically in a fantasy land thinks is football. Being fan-owned is one thing, and that is very important to a lot of people. But don't act to me as if Madrid has acted in the best interest of the fans because it's fan-owned. None of us live in fantasy land like that, right? You have, and again, I'll just go to the next comment. You have a Real Madrid inferiority complex. Your views on La Liga, same league that is the European champions. Typical EPL fan disregarding other leagues. No one's disregarding another league, buddy. No one's saying it's not as good. Saying that you think that your league is the best in Europe or the most competitive or whatever it is not disregarding others. It's simply applying a very basic hierarchy theory to everything else. Again, he strawmanned me, but fair play. Let's not, waste our time with that. You talk about disrespect. You are disrespectful. Liverpool are a great club. You don't represent them. Again, it's trying to take personal digs. It's kind of boring, to be honest. I replied to him and said, where's the disrespect? Saying that Real Madrid are representative of the whole league is not realistic, which I totally believe. He replied to me and said, basically, I had an evaluation of Madrid. Fair enough. A slight evaluation. That's not what... I don't think English is his first language. That makes it a little bit difficult to evaluate him, but your issue is that the player wants to leave Liverpool and join another club. In some way makes Real Madrid bigger. Players have left Madrid and went to other clubs. When you assert that Real Madrid have beaten English teams, maybe because they get an easier time in Spain. But I mean, they certainly do. Like, let's just be real here. A majority of the big six in the UK would go and run that league. And in fact, I think anyone from the big six in the UK will go and finish top four in Spain very consistently. I'd even put Newcastle United as a outside shout for the top four in La Liga. It's just the strength of the league. It's just the strength of the squads. And even Perez himself has said that there's too much strength and they find it hard to compete. No, they beat English teams because they spent 10 years, because they spent the past 10 years, they're just better. And the same goes for Barcelona. That's why Barcelona are, of course, so strong. I have met many Liverpool fans around the world, and they certainly respectful. I just put, none of this answers my points, Jeff. Fair enough, Jeff didn't respond yet. That was 4 hours ago. He's probably still asleep or having a siesta, if indeed he lives in Spain. When was Real Madrid ever state-backed? If you refer to Franco, that is a lie. The club almost died under him. Players and directives, I think it means directors, certainly did. A lot more research from a respectful Liverpool commentator would have been good. I've apologized for some of this, guys, so fair enough. Now I know why all English clubs despise you lot. Didn't watch the whole video, fair play. I've just put, give it a break. I think that's a fair response. I think it was clear that Liverpool were going to turn down any offer for Trent, and I suspect Trent wouldn't want them to sell him because he wants that money as a signing bonus. True. The more curious issue is whether Trent wants to sign a new contract with Liverpool or move to Madrid. Yeah, and we're commenting on things we don't know ultimately. This was a huge part of it, and I said at the start of the video, no one knows, which is why all these theories work. I don't live in the northwest England, so cannot speak to the rain versus sun argument. I mean, you certainly could. The weather's not as good as Madrid. I do think there is a risk of him becoming Jude's sidekick at Madrid. I don't know about that. I feel like they might come as a pair, but, in fact, I actually think Trent has a certain level of gravitas, which I think might equal Jude's. I think a lot of people maybe underestimate that. And overshadowed by guys like Jude, Vinicius, and Kylian. I certainly understand that. And there is a risk of Trent being the Beckham of the Galacticos 2.0. Perez had a track record for signing shiny players, whether or not they fit best. This could well be that again. Yeah, I do fear this a little bit, guys. And I go back to the comment about Coutinho leaving Liverpool and Klopp saying, you know, you could have a statue here or you could go and be someone else's footnote. I think automatically you become someone else's footnote when you go somewhere else, like Real Madrid. You will never be venerated in that same way, but maybe you want that experience. People in the comments here continually speak about that experience. I actually think Slot has already set up the team's tactical structure in a way that can absorb the loss of Trent more easily. I'd rather he stayed, ascending his birthright as the captain, sure, and enjoyed blitzing the Premier League for the next 5 years with the new genius coach of world football in the Slot Liverpool era of dominance. Either way, because of the rivalry with Madrid, I suspect Trent will be seen as a traitor by some fans, but it's his life and he is welcome. Completely agree, mate. I think some people will see him as a traitor. I think it's very easy to paint him that way, but I think he'll also go full circle. In the moment, it's an unpleasant experience and it doesn't reflect well on anyone involved. But at the same time, people get out of those kind of things. How often do the media get Liverpool plan to sign names correct? I don't trust anything that's said until I hear from Trent or from LFC. Fair enough, though I think very often they're seeding these things in the media. He'll be paid more and pay less percentage of it out in tax. Yeah, it's a really good point. You can't just come around the fact Madrid is a step up from Liverpool. I made this point in my last video. I think Madrid is a big step. I think it is a very important institute in football. I think it represents and can represent football very well. I don't always think it does, but I think it is such a different experience. They treat their players so well, or these kind of things. I think it is worth acknowledging. Just the lifestyle difference alone is very important. It's why people are attracted to Madrid or Barcelona. It's also that, you know, young, footloose guys very often want to go to these places to experience life there and to experience being that level of celebrity, to follow in David Beckham's footsteps, follow in McManaman's footsteps, follow in Owen's footsteps, to follow in any young English player's footsteps. Those things don't always go well, but I think Trent is extremely well set up for it to go well, especially with crossing and those kind of things. He'll get the Beckham comparisons. And I think people around him will be encouraging him to go and get those and take that step up star-wise because it's seen as a natural progression. I just think comparing those two experiences, like comparing apples and oranges, being your hometown hero, fantastic. Maybe he thinks he could return at some point. If he did, it would have to be on a free because I'm not paying Madrid any money for that. But at the same time, you know, maybe he thinks he can fulfill some sort of prodigal son type return. You thrashed a Real Madrid team with almost half of their first team players missing. You should be ashamed of your comment. A team you have beaten once in the last decade. First of all, I think the binary of beating a team or not, yeah, I said we thrashed Real Madrid. It was kind of a throwaway joke, but maybe we're not speaking about this guy's first language, so we can't understand the context around it. I don't know, like the way he types doesn't seem like it's his first language. But at the same time, some people just half asleep. Who knows? I literally said that because I did. The amount of hubris, and I'm interested in comments like this. The amount of hubris in your logic, Trent Alexander-Arnold, I don't understand all this ... but fair enough, was offered a contract lower than the top earners at the team, and he rejected that. 2023. You just put full stop there. And the board didn't try to get on a good place to discuss a deal. He's a good player, and he will be an addition to a team with a massive, impressive squad and paid more and titles. If you have seen 2022 Champions League semi-final against MCT, which I think is Manchester City, second leg, and your jibe at Madrid for the form, injuries have been a hold-down defence, didn't help. But you saying Liverpool and Madrid in the same bracket is laughable. Some other people disagreed in the comments. They thought Liverpool and Madrid were similar brackets. I would certainly put Liverpool up there in European royalty. And I say if Madrid probably subtract their first few Champions League wins, then they probably get to a similar level to Liverpool. I think very often marketing outdoes Madrid. I don't think Madrid quite hold the level that everyone else does. And I think they have a big global appeal because of the royal connotations. I don't think they'd have those same connotations if they didn't have the word royal. A lot of people globally, and especially big markets, respect the word royal. He's earned the right to do what he wants, but he should also understand that what it would mean to stay and win. Yep, completely agree. This is the contrast that we see between the two. Maybe he doesn't mind about these kind of things. I trust he gets that. Yeah, I totally get it too. I don't think he's living in some sort of fantasy land. And I won't fault a guy for wanting to leverage his strengths, but he has engineered this situation. He could have made this easier and he chose not to. Completely agree. I feel like he could have been much more upfront, but maybe it also indicates where we're going to get to, which is why I'm kind of encouraging people not to dive in at the deep end and say, oh, Trent's a bad guy, because I think there may be a possibility that he stays. I think the biggest possibility is that he goes, but I think there may be someone who convinces him to stay. I just think he most likely goes for the money, the experience, and the league titles. In my mind, he's already gone. Yep. But I'll be happy to be proven wrong. Exactly. You really are. Scorpion Bowley really are summarizing a lot of my thoughts. Perhaps just maybe he realizes he's already playing in the best team in Europe and it's on the rise. The point I kind of want to make here is I think Liverpool are only at the beginning of the slot era. He will know that. He will probably see that and feel that himself. But I think he'll also feel, can I maximize what it is that I'm giving and getting in my career at this point? Am I giving the best at the role that I would be given at Liverpool? Most probably not. Can he get better at Real Madrid under Ancelotti, under Alonso, under another manager like that? Most probably. And I feel like he'll evaluate that and go, actually, can I be the best me somewhere else when I'm being asked to be a midfielder at Liverpool, or like a wide midfielder, a wide wing back? Can I be that? Maybe not. Maybe he is better going somewhere else. That's often the conclusion I come to. I'll be absolutely distraught if we lose Trent, Virgil, or Salah. I'm gutted the club have allowed it to get to this point. I think it's easy to feel that way in this moment when Trent feels so big. I think if we were to move on to another player, I think if we were to move on to another profile, we might very quickly see that, it was a lovely time and we can move on together. And Trent will very quickly be forgiven if that becomes the case and Liverpool do go on to win things. I think that's kind of the point. Is what you very often want in football is there to be this timeline where the brilliance of Trent crosses over with the brilliance of a team and all it sort of clicks and everything comes together. That would obviously feel lovely. But very often, that isn't the case. It didn't happen with Gerrard. It didn't happen with Fowler and McManaman. It didn't happen with a number of great players. We won the Champions League with Gerrard. We won the Europa League with a Fowler and not with McManaman. But, that's the tricky thing, right? Is getting all of this to cross over. Very often you lose people in generations of just not winning, right? What are you people on about? You guys were ready to kick Trent out the minute Bradley made his debut. Liverpool fans being hypocritical here. That's just absolute rubbish. I don't think anyone was ready to kick Trent out. They love him as part of the team. They also like Bradley. But what I think most people said was Trent's aspiration is to be in midfield. Let him go in midfield and let Connor Bradley play right back. That's where both of their strengths seem to lie. No one, I think, was ready to kick him out. And I made that point in the comments. They not like us. I don't know which angle this comes from, which one you're sort of calling the Drake and which one you're calling the Kendrick. I think in any capacity, Real Madrid would be Drake, Liverpool would be Kendrick. It's just the way it feels. But let me know in the comments. The competition that we feel with Real Madrid, there is no competition. Real Madrid beat you 7 times in the last decade, every time in the knockout stage, eliminating you from the Champions League, including 2 finals. You beat them once this year in the group stage, where it really doesn't matter, when they were at the very lowest after losing to both Milan and Lille. They've won 6 Champions Leagues also in the last decade. You've won 1. No competition whatsoever. And this was kind of my point in the last video. Really, when you have such a level of dominance, when you have such a level of just hegemony in the league, across Europe, right? And because of the resource that you have, because of everything that's been available to you, because of the overall socio-economic climate in your own country, and because people misunderstand the socio-economic climate around somewhere like Liverpool, they do things like this. Yeah, of course, any victory tastes sweet over someone like Real Madrid. They're one of the most dominant teams in Europe. So, of course, we're going to revel in that. Of course, I actually think games between Madrid and Liverpool were much closer, and people just reduce it to the binary, we won or we lost. Klopp did very well to get Liverpool to those areas and those eras. And I think people misinterpret where Madrid are at. Madrid, again, I've kind of said this further up, They are one of Europe's biggest forces. They're a global brand. They deserve respect for that, where they built themselves up to. But they also, we forget, and they very often hide behind this fan-owned thing or this kind of, oh, well, we've built them up to be this. They've got Kylian Mbappe, who they encourage to basically sign on a free transfer. They're going to get Trent. They've got a lot of other people who they bring in, and essentially I think they ruin some people's careers. There's some people who are wasted at Madrid. And I think they misinterpret what a lot of people feel and think about Real Madrid. I think they don't have a very realistic view of Real Madrid. Beat you 7 times in the last decade. Yeah, Liverpool lost. I think the experience of that loss, the experience of Real Madrid's wins in those times and what it meant to them, the dynasty that they built, those are 2 different experiences in football. Beating someone in a final, playing in A1 in a final is incredibly important. Getting to those finals meant something to Liverpool. And I felt that with Madrid, and I felt visiting the Champions League final last year, some of that washes over them. And they don't have the same experiences as Liverpool or any other fan does because they're Real Madrid. And what I've learned under Klopp, what I've learned under other managers, was to value some of those experiences differently. And in going in the comments here, I feel like actually some Madrid fans are losing out on the wider happiness of football just to assert their own dominance. And that felt quite sad to me. Well, the reason why Real Madrid want him is very obvious. Carvajal's out for the season, and Vasquez has had injury issues this season too, and is on his way out. Thanks, Guy Fawkes. Thanks for stating the obvious. I personally feel that if Trent decides to stay, his heart is no longer here. Yeah, this is something I didn't get around to in the last video, really should assert. If he did sign a new contract, I wouldn't want to go through another 4 years of every year Real Madrid speculating on him. If he was to tell them, I want to move on, if he was to make his position clear and to become the hometown lad, great. But I don't want him to sign a new I'd love him to sign a new contract in order to be bought by Real Madrid and give us some value back, but I wouldn't want him to do that in order to just please the hometown fans. I just don't think it's worth it. I'd rather he moved on at that point. I personally feel that Trent decides to stay, his own heart is no longer in it, and I want a player whose heart is here. I don't want a player whose heart is not here. To me, we shouldn't offer him a new contract. Fair enough. We intentionally let him end this one and leave. No hard feelings. Kind of agree, to be honest. Trent is a unique player. I think that's another point here. He's so unique. He's so generational. He's redefining of a position. He feels like Real Madrid are buying some of that status when they buy Trent. So I feel like Liverpool, in helping Trent get there, should get some money back for that value. But at the same time, we don't own him. He's a human. He can move where he wants. Trent is a unique player that will be hard, to, if not impossible, to replace. And I don't think we'll try to replace him. Just look at the numbers of times he sprayed pinpoint passes to Mo in the West Ham game. Bradley is a good defensively, but gets forward well, but will need time to develop more. Yeah, Trent needed time to develop, as will Bradley. I'd be more than willing to give Bradley that time. It just feels like he is already gone. Yeah, and because of that, I think a lot of people's feelings are changing. And Madrid, in making it real, have kind of done the first step almost in separating Trent from the fans. They almost separate him from the flock, and then they go in and, hey, we can get you now, we can get you that big sign-on bonus, those kind of things. When he feels separate, when he sees the fans' reaction, they know what they're doing, Madrid. It's so smart. It's such a manipulative thing to do. And sometimes manipulating can just be from a powerful position. This is a good one. Disrespecting the fan-owned aspect of Real Madrid is the exact same disrespect you talk about when people don't understand Liverpool due to the lack of the city-based experience. Fair enough. The socio thing is huge, especially if you're based in Madrid, you have long-running families that have shared ownership at the club. Sure, I don't understand why you want Perez to own your club. He's a capitalist-driven guy. Maybe you want them to go as far as possible. Don't claim to be left-wing if you support Real Madrid. Madrid is not a left-wing club, especially in my experience. Every legacy club has the story you pointed Liverpool and Scousers had in a different way. It was hypocritical of you there. Legacy club. I don't quite understand what he means there. Expected better. I guess you are just unaware about it due to how little the English media knows or talks about clubs outside of England. Again, if Real Madrid's a socialist club, which I don't think they are, If they're a left-wing club, I don't think they'd have wanted the European Super League. I think Trent's acted, let's just move on from that comment. Like, maybe I don't understand Madrid as well as some people might want me to. I also think that masquerading as a left-wing club when you're owned and operated by Perez, when Saudi's a huge sponsor for you, when Fly Emirates is a huge sponsor for you, come on, buddy. And I say that as someone who's got Standard Chartered on the front of our shirt. I think Trent acted like a little during this, and I think it's been quite disrespectful departure, to be honest. Just another player at Madrid. At least with Liverpool, you feel the love, man. Ain't no other club gonna love you. Goes back to that statue comment that Klopp had. In terms of Liverpool legacy, it's going to way further down. Yeah, so he's basically saying the legacy will be diminished, and we could get a player with more fire like Trent used to have, but wish he would stay. Yeah. So this goes both ways, right? First of all, I think Liverpool can find better value than the high wages that Trent is offering or asking in his position. I think that's part of the problem, right? First of all, we've probably offered him a very generous contract relational to normal people wages. But I don't think we'll offer him to be the highest paid player at the club. I don't think we certainly would have offered him something that's equivalent to Virgil and Mo. Fair enough. I don't think a right back necessarily deserves or warrants that, should we say. I think he probably deserves it. If he was captain, I think he deserves more money. But I also think alongside that, Liverpool will have weighed this up and basically said, calculations-wise, here's what we think you're worth to the team. You offer a goal or an assist every X amount of minutes. Here's what you offer in terms of what we feel you bring marketing-wise, and this is the offer. They'll have gone to him with the first, second, and third offer. They feel that the negotiations are still ongoing, which is what the club have apparently said. So I think they will have to have said to him, look, we don't feel that you offer X amount of value to the club because, you're just not X amount of value to us. That's fair enough, right? And he'll have said, well, I can get better value elsewhere. I think at that point, Liverpool will say, okay, go and get that value then if that's what you feel. We'll invest the money elsewhere. We'll find another right back or whatever it is. We would still love to keep you and for you to understand the value that you bring to the team. But if you want to go somewhere else, if you want to have another experience, I think that's probably where he's at. He's lost Klopp in this experience. Klopp was a huge father figure to him. But again, we'll get onto that at another point. And he will be seeing that, and Liverpool are rebuilding. And he might feel like, leave Liverpool before Liverpool leaves you. It's not, it's not about the football leaving him. It's about Liverpool going, we don't see your value in the same way as you do. That's fair enough. The Three Amigos contract should have been sorted last summer. I just don't think that's realistic, mate. I just don't think Liverpool could have sorted those contracts because of where all three of the players were and because they probably wanted to run them until January to put Liverpool, or at least FSG, in this kind of position to offer them more money. You're a personable guy. I admire your ability to talk so fluently, but you could have said this in less than 10 minutes. I sat through the full 43 minutes and I felt like I wasted my time. You can click off at any point. No one's telling you to stay. Hi, Laurence. Love the show. It's a show now. Happy New Year. Thank you. Just a quick question, angle that nobody seems to have asked thus far regarding Trent. Will he receive a Prem or UCL winners medal after playing half the competition of Liverpool? I think he would. I think Liverpool would probably want him to have one. I think Liverpool would even say, come back for the parade and get booed. As picking up potential accolades for Real Madrid in the second half of the season, thereby giving him 2 chances at all of the silver and potentially putting himself in the Ballon d'Or framing. It's a very interesting one. Win a league with Liverpool, win a Champions League or whatever with Liverpool, or win it with Madrid and win the league with Madrid, and you're in the Champions League framing. Second title, 1 UCL winning side in the same year. It's certainly an interesting framing. I think that would be very short term of him. I don't necessarily think that's the long-term goal for him. I think it's more of a residual benefit of moving between 2 clubs. I just think he probably wouldn't make that move, and I think he knows Liverpool don't want to sell him in January. I think what they're doing is they're slowly moving towards FSG being the bad guys here. They're slowly moving the narrative towards that. Many comments are very salty and sulky. This man gave his all for us and the club, and if he has other plans for his life, we should support and be happy for him. I certainly think we should support and be happy for him. I was just trying to explore where other fans may feel and why someone who's so committed to the club, say a Liverpool fan, would want him to stay and would feel betrayed in some fashion. Because that is a legitimate and okay feeling to have, that your goals don't align with someone else's and that you will want someone else to relate to your experiences. He will not get a statue, but if he wins a Ballon d'Or, everyone will know this is also Liverpool's work. It would not have been the end, and there will be good Liverpool boys waiting to take his place. Good point. I would not worry and have stupid thought. It is his decision. Fair enough. I don't know what Liverpool fans are thinking about, but as a Madrid fan, I can tell you one thing that it bothers us the least. Right, so basically you don't care about us. Yep, I mean, sure. Because we know our team can achieve success irrespective of players. Yeah, you've certainly done that. I mean, irrespective of players, Madrid are top of the Champions League groups. Whoops. They have Ronaldo. They said Ronaldo carried Madrid, won in 2022 with youngsters. Okay, I suppose you've had a long enough history that you can just pick and choose. They said it was a fluke in 2022. We did it again in 2024. This was partly the lecturing that I found Madrid fans do in the comments. They sort of feel that your platform was their platform. It's not. Move on. They said it was a fluke, blah, blah, blah. For this club, Madrid, no one is above the club. Okay, I mean, interesting approach. We feel the same at Liverpool. This is the same for Trent as it was for Mbappe. You join, good. You don't join, very well. We can win with or without you. So I don't understand the hype English media is creating around this transfer. Feels big. I feel that actually this is what I find funny. This whole thing that Madrid do, they sort of speak as if everything is below them, even though they've engineered the situations. It's a form of hypocrisy, but also of narcissism that I feel a lot of Madrid fans enter my comments with. It's not necessarily your direct narcissism, it's your status that you are sort of trying to reinforce, even though it comes across actually in quite an insecure manner, even though Madrid are a very secure club. Oh, I've come to the wrong area. Damn it. I did not want to do that. Oh, good, I opened the wrong bit. It's basically, we have 100 more talented right backs in line to join. Well, why are you bidding on Trent then? Me personally, I want a defensive right back instead of a Trent profile. Fair enough. I think that's a fair way to end the comment. Let him go, shake hands and say goodbye. The way I see it, he handles this like he should, by keeping silent. I actually think the keeping silent thing is more a self-protection thing, but I also get the keeping silent. I think it puts Madrid very much in a place where they're able to force his hand, sort of go, look, we want you. What are you doing? Come on, force Liverpool's hand a little bit. I'd rather hear from Trent. I'd rather hear what his thinking is, what his logic is, and move away. I also think the problem is he can't say anything because the second he says, I want to go to Madrid, Madrid go, cool, we'll drop your wages, we'll drop the offer because now you've said it, you've really forced your own hand. He can't say anything else. I don't think it's out of respect. I think it's out of negotiation, because in negotiations, you always need to be able to leave the table. I actually don't think he will go anywhere. Fair enough. Real Madrid want good relations because they want to poach McAllister in the summer. I certainly think this is part of it. They want to try and keep good relations, even though I think Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes will be very aware of that anyway. These guys aren't idiots, and they fear bad relations could scupper their plans. Sure, I think McAllister could certainly be a massive signing for them. He's such a great relational midfielder to other players around him. I think losing Modric in the summer will be a big bit for them. They're looking for someone else who can be a bit more relational. McAllister is perfect for that. He's an incredible player. Wouldn't want to see him leave Liverpool, and I think our midfield would look very different without him. If we were to sign someone else, say Zubamendi or something, it would make it a slightly relieved blow, so to speak. But don't know if that works. This past year has been incredibly, I would hate to see McAllister leave is ultimately what I'm saying. The past year has been incredibly interesting from a fan sentiment and media coverage perspective. Although most have now moved towards selling Virgil van Dijk to a borderline bitter degree, at the start of the season, it felt weighted so much further in favour of Trent staying. Fair, I actually agree with that. And I wonder whether this movement has ended up nudging him further away. Long term, everyone will regret how much they believed in the rumours around him and him being pushed. I don't think he was pushed necessarily. I actually think mostly fans have said we want him to stay, but if he wants to leave, then we want him to leave. On the other hand, could that Agent Trent period of England squads actually have been the other direction? Very good point. Either way, a pretty sad ending if it all goes through. I couldn't agree more. My issue is simple with Trent. If you want to leave, make Real Madrid buy you for a significant transfer fee for your boyhood club. Reinvest it into the squad. Yep, completely agree, but he's not doing that and he's doing his own thing. Laurence, ultimately McKenna. Yeah, I said ultimately a lot in that last video. Sorry about that. He's a great player. But he's been assisting, he hasn't been assisting as much this year. We have Bradley. I do agree, I actually think his role is slightly diminished at right back under this slot system. I don't think it's the same as we saw him before. He's not the same marauding player, but I still think he is a very good player, and I think Slot has given him that license when he's needed it. It's shown a lot more restraint, it's shown a lot more self-control, and I actually really respected it and appreciated it this year from Trent. So I'm kind of disappointed to see him leave in that sense. It says here, also, I never felt a connection to him as a player. I kind of get that. I think some people found him quite hard to connect to because of his swagger. I actually really liked him as a player. I wanted to see him stay for that reason, but fair enough. If he leaves for free, he's not welcome back. A lot of people actually expressing this sentiment, and fair enough. If you feel that way, I think that'll soften over time, and I think Trent is probably willing to push through this to get to the other side, ultimately, and that's fair enough. It rarely works out well when they leave LFC. I tell you, one thing, all of this nonsense about contracts is the last thing we need while challenging for a title. I certainly think this is an interesting point that has been addressed a lot in the comments. We're in a title, potentially a title challenging season here, a title winning season. Why have this sideshow based around Trent? I don't particularly like it. I think it detracts from what we're doing. I think it publicly detracts. I think a lot of the players privately will be saying, get your money, get your contract, do whatever it is you need to do. And that's fair enough. I think a lot of them will relate to that, wanting to see their fellow guys do really well. But the frustration comes for the fans who want to see the focus on us, who want to see the focus on the club. I think that's fair enough. The comment about rich people, Tories using Liverpool, poor tropes and international fans and not understanding was odd. It's like Laurence has never watched Manchester United Liverpool game. It's fan rivalry banter. Yeah, it's fan rivalry banter. That's fans having rivalry and banter. If you come from another part of the world, you can certainly engage in that rivalry. But I think a lot of people have that kind of, they have a blind spot there. They don't understand the true level of that rivalry and that banter because they've never experienced it. And they don't understand that some of these social tropes of feed the Scousers, etc., is, whilst it might seem fun from the outside, actually playing on things that felt painful, hurtful, and true at one point. And between those two fan bases, they don't really want to exacerbate that, should we say, or make those things worse, because actually the real enemy here is the Tories. It is those rich people. It is those people who are taking away from the everyday general people. I replied that, and he put, this is a general discussion of why Liverpool as a city feels separate to the rest of the UK. No, that's not right. These are two separate things. And why, for example, there might not be much love for the England national team in the city. It's just strange to say it's rich people and foreigners propagating anti-Liverpool tropes in football. It's not rich people and foreigners singing Sign On. No, which was a rivalry song, is hilarious, by the way, even as a lifelong Liverpool fan. Sure, it's funny. I think in a banter sense, that's fine. I guess my wider point is, yeah, the separate thing from the rest of the UK is kind of another point. That's not really my point here. Those are two separate points, though the separate thing might encourage them to bring those tropes because they care less, because we're not all one set of fans. We can't all come together. But this really matters to me. Like, I really experienced it during my time working with True Geordie and on the kickoff. A lot of the time, like, a lot of people came to me and said, oh, we need you to be the reasonable one here, because they saw me as a middle-class guy who could. The trope was Brian was the one who was out of control, which ultimately I think, that image did us badly. And I was the one who was reasonable because I was middle class and well spoken. That wasn't always true. Like, I had plenty of awful takes. I had plenty of times where I was equally as to blame for bad takes or poor taste jokes, not to the extent where it took us down at the end, but you get my point. And I think that is kind of, it played into a trope because people trusted the middle-class white guy. That is just something we have to acknowledge here. And I think very often foreign fans and fans who don't live in the UK don't understand the inter-class and inter-city relations, they play into those things, and those kind of things frustrate me. Some people lower down apologize for playing into those kind of things. I don't think you need to apologize, but I think acknowledging it is certainly healthy. It's fine to say it's just banter. That's absolutely fine. I get that. But it's also great to acknowledge that sometimes it can play into unhealthy things, which can be, in a wider context, very unhealthy for the city. This guy has given up to this point on Liverpool. So now if you fancy Madrid and experience the culture and different life experience, that should be admired and respected. He's not doing anything wrong at all. Everyone's admiring it, respecting it. No one he's saying is doing anything wrong by wanting to go to Madrid. We're just saying those things can feel painful, can hurt the club, can hurt our experience as fans. Acknowledge that if it is that you care about the city. That's absolutely fine. And I get that's difficult to acknowledge, but we can speak about it. We can speak about it in our own forums. We can speak about how it impacts us. Us naming these things might damage his image to some extent, but him leaving was also detrimental to our own image. You know, it makes other people think, well, why wouldn't he stay, blah, blah, blah. I think having that kind of back and forth is important. And very often people online think when you state a position, you're stating your final position, whereas actually what we're stating is a conversational position to have a dialogue and a discourse as fans, but as players as well, and also as people from different fan sets. That's perfectly healthy. I get a new job every 2 years. Even if I enjoy the job, just like a new challenge, Liverpool is his job. Even if it's a dream job, there is another challenge and experience in Spain. Don't blame him. I get this approach. But also, the job that he has is an exceptionally he's very lucky to have that job, even though he's very lucky to have this skill. He sits in a position of extreme privilege in society through having this job and it being afforded for him, not only by the support that Liverpool fans have given him, but also just by the talent that he has. That being acknowledged and that being seen is very important, especially to other people who might hold him up, to give him a more normal status, to give him a more normal name and to give them a more normal label is very important. So calling these kind of things out is great. Comparing it to a normal 9-to-5 job, I don't think is realistic. Bit of a different take on the Real Madrid offer. I think it may be possible that Real Madrid are trying to force Trent's hand by saying we need a right back now. If you don't sign him now, they may have to go into the market. It's a very interesting point. I think they are trying. It's a very good point. They are manipulative in that sense. And most clubs are manipulative to some extent because they want what they want. They want to, you know, in order to win, sometimes you have to be ruthless. And I think that's perfectly fine. But I think your ruthlessness will be called out and very often not appreciated by the opposition. And that's fair enough. That's rivalry within football. Too many people think that these are permanent states, whereas actually state is often changing in football, which is what makes it such an interesting place to be. Now, this may mean that they sign a stopgap, blah, 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 like the Mbappe Hosselu thing, and I can summarize that. They might sign Frimpong, but that will close the door to Trent. Not saying this is their plan, as this is not Real Madrid's first rodeo doing this, but they are fighting for La Liga. Yeah, it's a really good point, and will want to compete in the Champions League. I think they will look at that and say, yeah, like we are looking to compete in the Champions League as well. They really need to, put it this way, they really need to up their game in these final 2 games in order to go through. Madrid had a pretty difficult draw, but also they had some injury issues. I think they'll want to push themselves through in the Champions League, and a right back will help that. It's that simple. I'm in my 40s now, so nothing will break my heart like Houllier selling Fowler. Fowler had to go at that point. Did he? I don't know. Like to some extent he did. They moved the team on and it went into another generation. Fair enough. Of course, this year will have been a massive chance for winning the league that we lose Trent. We can't have a normal league win. Yeah, it's a really good point. Like to some extent, that does sit with FSG. We've had a lot of continuity from these owners, but there have been moments of incontinuity. And I think a lot of people try to point to either the moments in continuity and continuity. The people who like FSG will point to the continuity we've had, and people who don't will point to some of the moments where it's been a little bit unsure. That's just sport in general. I tend to go both ways on this argument, and actually I think any ownership would struggle to have a level of continuity in a league where there is so much competition. If we weren't showing signs we could be a dominant force with Slot, I would understand. But the fact he's leaving with no fee and we have a title race isn't great for him. But people shouldn't demonize him. Very good point. Demonizing him isn't great. Completely agree, though I understand a short-term thing. Scouse GK, thanks for watching. If you want, and also thanks for being part of it, do love your stuff. I met him a few weeks ago and he was a lovely guy. If he wants to go, I wish him all the best, is basically what he's saying. I think he'd be unbelievable for Real Madrid. Yep, absolutely. And he says, if he change in his life, go for it. Completely agree. Wow, the hate you have for us is shocking, dude. Read up on some of the history. Yeah, this is why I apologized at the start of the video. And he's killed some of our players and top management. Fair enough. I have ever had for Liverpool as company with feeder clubs. And stop him feeder clubs. Basically, he's talking about Liverpool being a feeder club. Very good. Blah, blah, blah. Huh? Liverpool is one of the most famous cities in the world, and I'm sure it benefited from being well known too. Yeah, we never had a dictator though, mate. We never had someone who backed us, and we didn't win the most titles in those times. Though actually, what I would find weird is, and this is a weird stat, Liverpool as a city, and Liverpool therefore as a club, won the first league titles after both world wars. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. Maybe also because they were financial centres and industrial centres and shipping centres during those times, maybe drawing more people towards that area and giving them more resource to deal with, making them easier places to return to after the war. While we and other clubs were hindered by the Franco regime, Real Madrid still thrived. Our ability to attract world-class players, build a strong team culture, and consistently perform at the highest level is testimony to our enduring legacy. I do agree with this, though I think it's very easy to say that with recency bias. The culture that they built under the previous Galacticos was one league title. That's not particularly impressive. That's not particularly impressive culture. I don't actually think Galacticos is much of a culture, to be honest. I think it's quite a gaudy sort of... It's an element that people forget because they didn't really win that much in that time. And actually Barcelona sort of came and surpassed that in terms of their own legacy and their own ideas. Barcelona's legacy ideas were much more alluring to many football fans because it felt a lot harder than the Galactico ideas. At one point, the Galactico ideas was very big, and it has built towards the modern Galacticos that we see now, the modern levels that people want to see towards. Let's not forget that, right? A lot of people seem to forget and seem to overlook the fact that Real Madrid spent a lot more money than anyone else in that time and forced other people into transfers, which ultimately, I think, didn't benefit some people. Ask Gareth Bale. He won a lot of things, but is he favoured? Does he have the best holistic experience? Probably not. Did he enjoy his time in Madrid? Probably, but also huge elements not. Also, if the rumours are that Madrid will pay some money, for now, I think we shouldn't let him go. What is the price of a major trophy? Very good point. 20 million? Not enough. We want Trent to win the league title and then go. And I think there'd be less resentment maybe if he did that, but I still think there would be a level of resentment. Trent would be okay if he weren't the flip side of the Bellingham problem. Had we signed Bellingham, Trent wouldn't be leaving. I don't think we're ever going to sign Bellingham. He said that himself. And actually, I think Madrid were always in pole position. He was just playing both sides. And ultimately, Trent and everyone else helped him get that. I think this is how footballers operate in the modern day. They respect each other as professionals. They respect each other as, you know, ballers, basically. And that's very important to them. They want to respect and help each other get the bag. And ultimately, if Bellingham can do that, then I think that's a very big thing for Trent. Just hope all three stay. But if Trent really wants to go, let him go. Yep, fair enough. His choice. He's been great for us. Grass isn't always greener. Very good point. I think this is a really good point. We assume that Trent will go there and do exceptionally well. Part of the reason Liverpool were looking at letting Trent go in the first place or not signing another contract was his injury issues in recent years. Liverpool have really dealt with his injuries relatively well, I think, even though he was, really run into the ground during the Klopp era and he was, used a lot. I think, that is a big concern for Liverpool, and they will not want, another... They'd rather have someone who plays consistently and is very consistent at right back than someone who plays 30 games a season out of the 56. There are lots we don't know about Trent's situation, but if he did want to go to Madrid but leave on good terms, he could have signed a new short-term deal. Very good point. With a get-out clause. Yep, fair enough. As a Liverpool fan, I am up to my eyes with this Trent saga. Let him go to Real Madrid. Loads of people feeling this way, feeling tired, drained, fatigued by this, and ultimately not wanting Trent to leave, but also being like, look, I'm done with this, move on. Wow, I've never seen this side of Liverpool supporters. Trent is the best English talent I've seen in quite a while. Wow, okay. Now the EPL purists are losing their minds over Trent leaving and downplaying the importance of Trent's leaving. We have Bradley. I don't think many people have used Bradley to downplay Trent's importance, but I do think they've said, well, we do have another right back and he is very talented. I think very often people misunderstand saying we have Bradley. yeah, what they're basically saying is we have another talented player in that position and we feel that he could fulfill the profile for slot. That's not them saying they don't think Trent is good. That's them saying, well, as a club, we can move on. Those are two different arguments. Very often people conflated arguments in these comments. He's not got the same ceiling as Trent, possibly so. I can proudly say in the past decade, Trent is the most gifted English talent England has produced. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy's a Real Madrid fan. He is entering his prime years, and I love the ambition of wanting to join Madrid, which is the biggest club in the world, no doubt. Okay, we see where you come from now, buddy. It's hurt he is moving, but come on, friends, let's not slate the player. It's an unusual one. You feel like a bit of a cuckoo in the nest, but okay. Weird. I'd be shocked if he stays. Blame lays on both sides. Yeah, sure. I'll do another comment on that later. Trent is in control. He is wanted by two clubs and he's set for life. Yep, I hope he makes the right decision for himself and for his family. For Liverpool, it's more convenient if he stayed with us. That said, it won't be seminal if he goes or stays. Very good point. The big work he's done, the club is looking very nicely, thank you. Yep, doing very nicely, thank you. Off the pitch, it's galvanized its position as one of Europeans' elites. Very good point. When Madrid in front of you all becomes secondary, automatically we feel royal, grass, land, sky, mountain, boyhood club, country, continent, everything goes under your feet. This was what I was talking about to a lot of fans, and Madrid fans didn't seemingly understand it. Ultimately, the way that Real Madrid appear is not just down to the people who are in the city. The same for Liverpool. There are a lot of people who comment as if Liverpool fans, probably a lot of people see me that way, and they don't necessarily represent how the actual fan base feel. They represent how the international fan base feel. I think a lot of Madrid fans underestimate what having the royal thing works in their favour, right? And I think that's ultimately because they don't see it that way in their own fan base. They are oblivious to that. They have their own bubble. But I think the royal element internationally goes a long way for marketing Real Madrid and making people feel that they can talk down to other fan bases, because royalty to a lot of people represents being able to speak down to others, being above those people. And that's why it feels so at odds with where Liverpool sit, because they've never been royal in that sense. Even though they have served their country, even though they have had affiliations with the UK during very difficult times, they've never been a royal club and they've never felt that way. I've accepted we're going to lose Trent. Good. That said, I generally despise the January transfer window. That ultimately summarizes where we're at there. I followed you a fair bit, Laurence. This was a nice comment, but I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's basically him saying, I made a comment during the video about not feeling that Scousers often accept me. This is him as a Scouser saying, we do accept you. We do feel a level of affiliation to you, and I do appreciate that. He says you're a knob, but I think he means not of birth. I was born in Liverpool, but fair enough. Why would he leave in January? Very good point. When he's in pole position, I feel that too. I don't think he will leave in January, though I feel Madrid are trying to force their hands. I think Liverpool have probably got to figure, they think, look, if they offer this, then we'll take this. But they're probably also looking at other right backs in the league right now or in other leagues and going, hey, if we can bring someone else in. But I don't think they want to break up what we currently have, right? And I think for that reason, we'll probably see them keep him, and then he'll go at the end of the season. And that will disrupt our season to some extent. I don't think it'll disrupt it to a losing end, but I do think it'll feel unpleasant in the moment. Any of those combos, Liverpool will pay for next season. Liverpool may fall off if they lose Trent. I'll talk about this in another video, but ultimately I do fear for the fall off for Liverpool if we do lose Trent. Bro, please, Real Madrid alone have more UCLs than the entire Premier League combined. Yeah, they're objectively the best club in the world on the big scale. So not objective, but okay. And I do reply, I do think we need to talk about Real Madrid's trophies, because I do think we need to talk about the early Champions Leagues that they won. Is it just me that feels that the bid stinks of desperation for Real Madrid? It's not just you, but I do get that. I don't think it's desperate. I just think they need a right back. I think they're doing relatively well in the league and they're not doing very well in the Champions League. And I don't know if a right back sorts that, but I think it helps it a lot. I just don't know if Trent's profile of right back sorts that. Very good point. Mate, do you know Real Madrid and any other club cannot speak to players? It's the rules. I think you may be naive to think that. What annoys me most about the panic if Trent leaves, the world will end. If he wants to leave, let him go. Good point. Whether you accept it or not, Madrid is fan-owned. This, again, the misnomer a lot of Madrid fans are using. Every club gets outside investment through marketing, but the club is fan-owned. I don't see how getting funding from a bank or investment firms to build your own stadium suddenly means you're not fan-owned. Oh God, do we have to go into the complexity of the way that these things work? I mean, look, being fan-owned and where your money comes from is obviously very important. I'm not saying, therefore, that discounts you as a fan-owned club, but I am saying that where Real Madrid get their funding from, the way that it works is, I don't think it's as open and shut as we're fan-owned, therefore we don't make that, we are purer than anyone else. I don't think it works like that. I think very often where your revenue streams come from is very important. And I think every fan should be cognizant of that. I'm not saying that Liverpool is better than Real Madrid in that sense because of that. What I am saying, Brad, is that being fan-owned doesn't make you better than anyone else and doesn't make you more special or more able to comment on these things. I think a lot of these things are smoke screens for just big corporate interests, and telling you that you're fan-owned obviously pacifies you and makes you more placid as a fan base. There is a reason I believe Stevie G should have a statue at Anfield. He stayed. Great point. He should be given a coaching role at Liverpool. I do agree to that to some extent. And he basically says, Liverpool, we should value Stevie G in the same way we should value Trent. Yeah, we should value our own and our locals. I think those are big marketing assets, but it's just great to have that relationship with the players out on the field. And ultimately that's it, right? God, guys, I didn't realize there were this many comments. Look how many comments there actually are. Look, I'm going to keep scrolling. There are a lot of comments. There was some real debates down here. This one was a big one. Trent is so far away from being the best right back in the world. I know he was evaluated. He has an elevated opinion of himself, but not as a right back. He seems to keep making the same mistakes. Yeah, this is kind of the point here. And I think ultimately the conversation gets to this point, right? Premier League fans act so entitled sometimes. I'm not convinced they're the best league in the world. They certainly have the most money, but how they quantify, they're the best. Yeah, okay. I think it comes down to these two things. Trent will want to secure a legacy and will also want to secure a future and will want to secure memories of the best life that he can lead. It comes down to what he wants from his career, and it comes down to we don't know that at the moment. At the moment, we don't know what he values in his career. We don't know if he values the legacy, the being nominated for Ballon d'Ors, the other experiences, the other playing styles that he can go and experience at Madrid. Maybe he's heard that from Jude, he's heard that from other people. He wants to be around those guys. Similar to the NBA, he wants varied experiences and similar to any other player. But, being a one-club man is a very specific experience, and I think that's very important to remember here. Ultimately, I can't begrudge him wanting to go somewhere else, but I can tell him, look, you doing this does feel like this to us. And I think he can't begrudge us our own opinions. Ultimately, I don't think he's that kind of guy either. I think he probably understands, and that's what makes it so difficult, why he is being so quiet, and why there isn't many comments and isn't much dialogue and discourse going both ways. I think it also goes the other way, and it kind of smarts a little bit for the fans when they feel that it allows Madrid fans a small, short-term win in inverted commas over us, and makes us look weaker in the transfer market, but also in terms of our overall image and league status, right? Players leaving hurts because you want people to buy into your ideology. You want people to buy into your idea of yourself and your own club. And when they don't feel that they're doing that, when it does feel like they're shying away from that, or they don't want to be part of that, that hurts. That we grieve that a little bit because it doesn't feel like it, how can I put this, validates our own identity and our own idea of what we represent as a club. It feels like Anfield is a special place to come. Why would you want to go and do that somewhere else? It feels like, as good as the Bernabeu is, it's not the same as Anfield. It's not Anfield. It's nothing to do with how many people are in it or how they sing or whatever. It's to do with You'll Never Walk Alone, the unique experiences, the relationship with the fans, the back and forth, the symbiotic nature of being a player here. That's really important to a lot of people. And I think that feels overlooked, should we say, when a lot of people say, oh, it's just another stadium, or, oh, it allows people to make that argument. And it does feel like it weakens us to some extent, image-wise and, I guess, stature-wise in Europe. But at the same time, being able to take that on the chin and move on and being able to say goodbye in a valid way will often mean that you're able to greet those people back in a much more warm, friendly way. And also that if they do decide to stay, you haven't burned those bridges. And I think that's part of it here is I don't want to burn those bridges with Trent. I really have appreciated what he's done for this club. But it's the Real Madrid dunking that I feel a little bit is weird. Jude had an opportunity to join Trent at Liverpool and chose not to do so. Why would Trent join Jude? It's certainly one high school way of looking at it. I don't think he's joining because of Jude, but I think Jude may have played a part in, some of this. Hey, it's really good here. You should come. Many players before Trent have ruined their careers going to Madrid. Yep, really good point. There is the potential it goes wrong. There is potential it isn't good. Enjoy culture. Him and Jude will be sitting there in their living room playing AFC. Yeah, I think the culture, that's ultimately they will play EAFC, I'm sure, at some point. But I think the culture for them is being more centralized in Europe, being in a European capital, being in a place where there's great, amazing nights out, being in a place where you can probably get a bit more anonymity, where there are other lifestyles and other things that have been at Madrid for a very long time. That's kind of the point there, is like, what is it that we can observe? I don't think we can observe everything that comes with being in Madrid because we don't know everything that comes with being a modern footballer. And that's kind of the point, right? There will be things here that are unspoken that we can't really speak about, that we can't really observe. Trent will want to go there because there is a different lifestyle, there's a different idea of all these things. I think with that, we need to understand how it works for these guys. We can't know what's going on in Trent's head. And we can't know all the benefits of being a super rich, eligible young man in these places. With him being class, with him having that status, that obviously works very well for us and for him. And we were very proud of the fact that he developed at our club, that he came from the same stock as we did. There was a comment in here that I think I may have hidden because it basically said, look, Liverpool fans are racist. I don't think there's anything to do that. Maybe he will have grown up in the city and had some racism directed towards him, or had some, negative experiences being not white, should we say. And white seems to some people to be the binary difference between a lot of people. Or not being scouse in the way that those racist people seem to try to make it. You're just a scouse whether you're black, white, South Asian, the list goes on, Far East Asian, whatever you want to say, right? Middle Eastern, American, South American, Antarctican. You can be scouse no matter where you come from. I think that has become very evident during this generation. But the point is, he would go somewhere else and those things, they wouldn't take a back seat, but you're considered in a different way. And that enriches his life in a massive way. But I think a lot of people are growing quite tired of it. And there is the risk that you harm your brand and the idea of you through dragging things out like this and through the fans feeling in the dark. And it represents ultimately the disconnection between the fans and the players, that we don't feel in the know and that we feel like other things are being put ahead of us. We weren't deluded enough to think that other things weren't ahead of us. But this is an unpleasant and untastely reminder of those things. Finally, a video about Trent, isn't going to be regurgitated, nonsensical, speculative clickbait. I hope we've spoken to that a little bit again here. I hope that you guys understand where we're coming from. I hope Trent understands where a lot of these people are coming from. It can be very painful, very difficult when you leave. Grieving happens on both sides, the change in identity, all those things. It's just that Trent might be more ready for it than a lot of the other fans are. There's another comment here. I kind of wanted to get onto this. He wants something of Bellingham PR. As much as we can take digs rightfully at Perez and the Madrid fan base, at the end of the day, it's a competitive game. And that's the point. The reason it does smart a little bit is because it's competitive. And it feels like a loss when you lose something. But actually, I think in the holistic, wider sense, replacing Trent with another great right-back could actually be really good for Liverpool. And we'll see in the coming days, in the coming weeks, in the coming months, how that evolves and how Slot handles it, how the club handles it, how Trent handles it, and how Madrid handle it. And sometimes there's a bit of schadenfreude that goes both ways. And in this, like timey-wimey sort of change type time, sometimes when it feels very unsure, slightly insecure, We actually don't know where the dice may fall, where, you know, the cookie crumbles. The cookie crumbles, and those little crumbs go on, and they're still cookie, but you don't know. Sometimes it goes beneath the couch, or, you know, it goes in between the couch bits, or it falls on the floor or whatever. The 5-second rule doesn't always work. You can't always come back to where feels safe. You can't always reconstruct the cookie, and that's my point here. Very difficult to anticipate that. And the reason maybe some of us feel resentful is we feel that Trent is entering his prime years. And actually, as important as that is, we're losing out on that because we want to be able to support him. We want to be able to share those things with him. Just on the most basic level, that's so important. I hope you guys understand that. A lot of comments on that video. Feel free to go back, you know, read them, whatever. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And there is a Patreon down there if you want to support the work we do. Long video today, obviously. There is a Discord down there. I feel like we've been through a lot of this stuff. I want to finish on this comment. The Trent saga showed the true colours of Liverpool fans. Trent owes Liverpool fans nothing. He has won everything possible. Multiples would often help, by the way, would have helped to have a multiple title win or multiple Champions League wins. But sure. I've seen fans who have said that him and his brother, his agent, are money-hungry rats, that he's obliged to stay loyal to Liverpool and that he should look up Stevie G when it comes to true loyalty. Liverpool fans have no problem flooding comment sections and spreading rumours about Zubimendi, trying to steal him away from his boyhood club. Some fans forget that Stevie G tried to make a move to Chelsea happen twice. I think this guy's kind of getting a bit confused in the comments. Yeah, he did, and I don't think many fans aren't aware of that. Virgil van Dijk's contract not sorted out. Salah has to beg for a new contract, and Konate is injured. It takes only not extending the contract of 3 players to immediately cause disruption in this team. 3 of the biggest players, by the way. I think if any team had the 3 biggest players not extending their contract, it would be a little bit disruptive. FSG is not willing to extend their senior contracts. Meanwhile, Perez is working on Galacticos 3.0. Trent is offered the position and guidance under the mentorship of a 6-time Champions League winner, Carvajal. He gets to live in the sun and plays in the squad, which has covered nearly every position for the last for the coming years, whilst he can learn Spanish with another English teammate. Just because Liverpool finally have won in 15 years against Madrid, do well in a league where the usual farmers finally fell off. Farmers, God. On their face, and they challenge for all competitions with an irreplaceable 32-year-old Ballon d'Or winner who has to crawl for a new contract. It does mean that this level is what we will see for the coming years, especially when that 32-year-old saved you many times from point loss, is responsible for over 67% of Liverpool's goals. Liverpool is a great and a big club, but the fact remains Madrid is still bigger and a greater club, and they've shown consistently throughout the years that winning trophies is not an expectation, it's an obligation. Well, I think Liverpool have probably shown the same in terms of obligations. I think you've made a couple of calculating errors there. Madrid themselves have had their own comebacks in the Champions League, saved by individuals similar to Salah down the years, their own talismanic style players. And again, I think it comes down to this. We, Liverpool fans and Real Madrid fans, can appreciate the other, but when we come to comparing the two of us, we're not very good. Liverpool are an institution of their own, Real Madrid are an institution of their own. But the point goes, right? Madrid have had their own hour-saving moments, their own moments of, we need someone to step up. And they've done that multiple times with Benzema, with the multiple different people, with aging players within the team. Salah has had this output because Liverpool play towards his strengths. Salah has had this output because Liverpool have played through him. That would happen with anyone in that front line. The same goes for Ronaldo at Real Madrid, years where he saved them or whatever. These are all very unique observations and arguments that people seem to make when it comes to Liverpool. And it seems to be, again, a bit of a blind spot for Real Madrid that they've been saved. Why buy Kylian Mbappe if you can just do it as a team? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Perez is building... Galacticos 3.0 Trent is offered the position and guidance under the mentorship as a 6-time Champions League winner. Yeah, he'll be offered mentor and guidance elsewhere, you know? I don't get why Madrid think they are so unique on the field. I think off the field is where a lot of people see that difference. Trent owes the city nothing. I think he does owe, I think every player owes the fan base something. And I think when it feels unfulfilled potential, all those kind of things, then they don't, that's harder to forgive, though over time that obviously helps. Speaking about Madrid as if this is where I think I want to differentiate the two clubs. Madrid often speak as if it seems inherent that they are a better team than someone else. Being better and being different, the difference is appreciated, I think, by the players. I think saying it's better is a sleight of hand on Madrid's part because they aren't always better. They aren't always preferable. It comes with a different lifestyle. It comes with a different expectation. As you said, winning is an obligation for Madrid. But the way you're then treated as a player is then different. Not every player wants that. Some players want that. Some players feel, well, I'm going to be treated poorly anyway, so I might as well go and get treated poorly and have high expectations. Or, you know, I'm going to be treated poorly because of X, Y, Z, so I might as well do it for a lot of money at Madrid. I think it does lead to a different kind of relationship with the players. And very often I think Madrid fans overlook the special nature of other relationships because they feel they have a special relationship with a lot of those players. And they do. But what I will say is, and I think it's very important, it doesn't make that experience better. They wouldn't say these things if they didn't have so many trophies, and they wouldn't say it if they didn't have so much success with this. But they've had a lot of success in very exceptional circumstances. And I think very often it is a sleight of hand. And they do the same sleight of hand that Liverpool fans do, that Manchester United fans do, that everyone else does, because it feels so exceptional to them, because it feels so brilliant to them. But it means they overlook the other special things that happen for other teams and speak as if only Madrid fans have had this experience. And that's not true. Maybe Trent does want to go and experience that, but it's not because it's better or worse or whatever. It's because it's different. And Liverpool can't be different just to accommodate Trent. So don't act as if it's because you're exceptional when it's actually just because you're different. And certainly don't use that difference as a marker for thinking that you've done it in a morally better way, when actually you've just done it in a different way. Your morals are no better to anyone else in football. And I think part of the reason we get so frustrated with Madrid fans is because we're consistently spoken to like this. That's how it goes, guys. I hope you get at me in the comments below. I hope you comment. I hope you join the Discord. I hope you join the Patreon. We really appreciate when you do, because it's a very direct way of appreciating the work that we do. And I will chat to you guys again in another video very soon. Lots and lots of comments. Like I can just keep scrolling here, guys. See? Wow, there are so many. With all due respect, I think you're getting far too off the mark with the Trent saga. It's just business. Rubbish. Yeah, I could have just gone through all of this. Agree with what you're saying, Laurence. I'm just disappointed. Yeah, lots of that kind of repetition. Get in the comments below, reflect on this with me, and I'll chat to you guys again here on the Laurence McKenna on LFC channel or my main channel in the very near future. Much love.